Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. So, again, we'll begin with the Bhagavad Gita. We're up to chapter 3, and I believe I've been told we got up to verse 26. And for those of you who have not been on all of the sessions so far, don't worry about it. It's totally okay. The Gita you can pick up at any verse and any point. So it doesn't matter if every verse of the Gita is pregnant with wisdom and ideas and something that we could speak at great length about. In fact, I'm going way too fast. But yeah, that's the case. So, um, as I normally do, I like to go back a few verses from where we were just so that we can get into the flow of um, where we are. And so I'll probably go up to verse 24. Or just to remind that, one of my favorite verses in the Bhagavad Gita appears verse 20, where it said, Loka Sangraham Evapi Sampasyam Kartamarhasi. For the benefit of the world, you should act. So I really love that line, 320. It's something that I write everywhere. I keep post-it notes on, and that uh, as what is the prime motivator? Is it for spiritual enlightenment? Is it for achieving heaven? Is it for some state of bliss that we want to achieve this stuff? But Maharaji, for me, he said, go feed the poor, go serve people, go help people. Stop thinking about yourself and go help each other. Go help each other. And here you see that in the Gita. For the benefit of the world, we should act. And then coming up to verse 24, all these worlds would perish if I did not work. I would be the cause of unwanted things and the destruction of all creatures. So even Krishna works. And when I talk to Ram Dass about this idea, like God works, spiritual presence works. Like, what does that mean? Why? Um, and he would speak about Maharaji, and he said Maharaji was constantly moving, constantly acting, constantly working. Even when he appeared still, he would blink and he would be off serving someone, you know, helping someone in some way. And I love that. I love the idea of action being a positive force. Even if we are doing nothing, we are doing something. O descendant of Bharata, that's Arjuna, as the ignorant person works with attachment, a learned person should act without attachment and for the benefit of the world. Loka Sangraham. I think that word is really crucial. Loka, for the world, for benefit, for all living beings, we should act. Like the Bodhisattva in Buddhism or Hanuman, who is just constantly serving. Out of ignorance, people act out of attachment, but learned ones act not for the attachment, but for the welfare of others. The intention is different. One should not disturb the understanding of the ignorant who are attached to action. Instead, acting with discipline, the learned should engage them in beneficial works if you can. So if people don't understand this way of being, spiritual path, don't try to disturb them too much. Don't tell them they're wrong or don't change them. Just try your best to engage them in good things. Ask them to come to a food distribution with Go Dharmic, or come and invite them to meditate if they want, or share a meal with them, or, uh, visit a sanctuary and, take care of some animals, or, do beneficial acts, good acts. invite them for a charitable event, or you know, to a satsang or a kirtan where they can enjoy or be present in something, but don't try to change them. Only try to love them. That's Ram Dass would say. Don't try to change them. Only try to love them. I did have something very beautiful that I wanted to read, um, and I'll see if I can find it here. Let's see. I can't find it now. I'll paraphrase. Ram Dass said something about his journey with Muktananda. And after being at Harvard, if you imagine, Harvard for him was a big power play, right? Like he was, the Harvard professor. He had the suit, he had the wealth, he had all of the resources, had everything that he desired, and he had position, fame, and all of that stuff. And then when he found Maharaji and became a spiritual teacher, Muktananda was there and invited him to go on a world tour where he would be there speaking in front of hundreds of people, addressing audiences, being in front of those people, and really doing that thing. But what he felt was that, again, what he found with Muktananda was spiritual power. But what he really wanted was Maharaji's love. I realized that I didn't want power, I only want love. And that for me, it was written in his book, Being Ram Dass. And in that book, I read that line and I just thought, I'm not after power, I'm only after love. So I think, you know, acting out of attachment, why do we do this? It's because love is the whole thing. And earlier on in the Bhagavad Gita, we read that for what use are small pools of water if you have the ocean? If you have it all, you don't need those small pools. You are it. You have that blissfulness. In all respects, actions are carried out by the qualities of material nature. But the soul, which is deluded by the ego, thinks, I am the doer. And when Krishna is talking about material nature here, he's really talking about the gunas. So the gunas are the three aspects of material nature. And we'll talk about them for a little while. You have sattva guna, which is the mode of goodness, the mode of truth, positive mode. Then you have rajas, which is rajasic, which is passion, desire, something like if we were to relate to foods, we might say sattvic food might be fruits and vegetables and nuts. Rajasic food could be overly spicy food, and kind of food that's like very uh, desirous, and kind of people would say who eat non-vegetarian food, that could be rajasic food, that you're trying to grasp at something and take, whereas sattvic food is considered gentle and soft and goodness, and tamasic could be laziness, a slothful, kind of that energy of ignorance. So any the whole of material existence, according to the Gita, is covered by this three modes of nature. Everything has it. And 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 what the Gita is asking us to work towards is be sattvic, to practice those things like forgiveness and kindness and love, non-violence, compassion, study the sacred texts, chant the name, and be in that presence. That's sattva. That's a mode. So, in all respects, every action is carried out by the qualities of material nature. And if we think we are the doer, we are the ones that's doing, that's delusion. So everything is being done not by us. It's just happening. And so anything good that we're achieving in our life it's because we have the blessings to be able to do that. It's all divine blessings. It's coming through. Um, there's a beautiful line that Krishna Das often would say is, what does the flute know about music? What does the flute know about music? What does the spoon know about prasad? So our goal is to be the best spoon we can be for distributing prasad. And for me, I consider that Maharaji, but Neem Karoli Baba doesn't need to be the same for everyone else. You know, when we're talking about Maharaji, we're talking about the big Maharaji, not just the guy in the blanket. We're talking about the Maharaji that is one with it all, from all of the traditions of the world. The learned person who knows the distinction of the qualities between the gunas, material nature, and action, and who understands that the senses are simply interacting with the sense objects, does not get attached. Once you know that you are the Atman, that you are one with divinity, then you realize that all of the attachments that are being created and all of those desires are like the senses just chasing after different things. Imagine a chariot. We'll come to this beautiful analogy later in the Gita where Krishna will describe a chariot, and that chariot houses the soul. But the chariot is led by 5 horses, which are like our senses, and those senses can go everywhere. Attracted to food, attracted to smell, attracted to people, attracted to things, nice objects, and things in the world that we chase for. So those horses can go all over the place, but the Atman is there. We see the word guna referenced twice here. So, you know, we're really talking about this idea of gunas, or the mode of material nature. Like, what is material nature? How does it work? Those who are bewildered by the qualities of material nature are attached to the actions induced by these qualities. However, those whose knowledge is complete should not disturb the foolish whose knowledge is incomplete. Dedicate all your actions to me. Fix your mind on the Supreme. Adhyatma Chetasha. Fix your mind on the Supreme. Give up all afflictions, all suffering, and without desire or egotism, fight. Go do it. But with this understanding that it's all God's work. Rama Kaja Karibe Ko Atur. Rama Kaja means Ram's work. Mai sarvani karmani sanyas adhyatma chetasha nirashir niramam bhutva yudhyasva vigatajvara. Dedicate all your actions to me. Fix your mind on the Supreme. Give up all your suffering, and without desire or ego, fight. So beautiful. Verse 30 of chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita. Mai sarvani karmani. Do it all for me. Do it all for God. Sannyasa, the word sannyasa dhyatma. Do it out of a sense of renunciation, renouncing what you want to achieve from it. Do it for God. Give up your suffering. Give up this affliction, and without desire or ego. Can we give up those two things? Like our ego, that we are the one doing it, and the desire for any results, and just serve. Those who follow my eternal teachings with faith and who are without envy are freed from the bondage of action. Those who follow my eternal teachings with faith and who are without envy are freed from the bondage of action, free from the karma of the world. And when we're talking about that bondage, what does that bondage mean? It means that when we're doing our work in the world out of these things like desire or ego or envy, when we're doing work out of that, when we're acting out of that space, then we develop bondage or attachment or more karma in the world. But if we want to, there's a way of acting in the world without adding karma, without adding more bondage or more attachment. Lifetime after lifetime, we keep adding to the our own karma through everything we do. But what we're talking about in this chapter is karma yoga, the yoga of selfless action. So we're talking about action that is free from bondage. It looks the same. You know, one person may be feeding another person, but one person might be feeding that person out of ego, or another person might be feeding that person out of anger, or another person might be feeding out of envy of another organizer. But if you're doing it as a prasad distribution, then you're doing, as we spoke about earlier, it's God's prasad being distributed by God to God. It's all one. Sabek, as Maharaji would say. And those who follow my eternal teachings with faith and who are without envy are freed from the bondage of action. But those who, out of envy, fail to know these eternal teachings are bereft of knowledge. Sarvajnana, all knowledgeable. But those who out of envy fail to follow my teachings are bereft of knowledge. Know them to be lost. They will lose sensitivity. They won't have sensitivity. You know, the sensitiveness, like, you know, the softness and sensitivity of understanding another's suffering. When somebody's going through that pain, to really feel it. You know, people who are spiritually aware should feel the suffering of the world. They feel it more closely. They feel pain. They want to relieve suffering. They have a desire to relieve suffering. And one of the things Dr. Nicholas Sutton would often say to me, and I probably repeated it multiple times throughout these talks, but I think it's really important that if you think about a spiritual being, and there's many in the world who, you know, are looked upon as great spiritual leaders or spiritual teachers, is it enough to just practice spirituality or spiritual practice without working to relieve the suffering of those around us? When we're walking into a meditation hall to sit on a nice yoga mat and nice equipment, or, you know, in a beautiful room, air-conditioned room, while homeless people sitting outside struggling for food, or people struggling in our surroundings, or people elsewhere in the world are struggling. But we choose to ignore that for personal practice, personal adventure in that thing. Nicholas Sutton would say that there is something that doesn't represent Dharma in that truest sense. And and as we embrace the idea of Dharma, we should widen our circle of awareness to feel the suffering of others, to feel the suffering of animals, to feel the suffering of the earth, and widen that and embrace that. So I think and I came across this book, beautiful book actually, called Beacons of Dharma. It was really nice. And on the front cover, you have Vandana Shiva. There's a Jain monk there. There's Guru Nanak. There's Swami Vivekananda. It's an academic text. Just a warning, it will cost you an arm and a leg uh, uh, because it is an expensive one. But it was spiritual exemplars for the modern age. Really nice. And I was telling Lakshman, I think, earlier this week, that I've really not come upon much about practitioners who embody Dharma. And in this text, I found it so wonderful that the topics of discussion were service, compassion, humanitarianism, uh, ecology, environmental activism, peace, knowledge, and social justice. And I'm getting tingles because this was everything we stand for at Go Dharmic. And to see academic work validate that, in a sense, really is wonderful for me to see. People like the Holy Mother Sharada Devi, who was with Sri Ramakrishna, and Guru Nanak, and great saints who did so much in the sense of social action. Sri Ramakrishna, and great Swami Vivekananda, who spoke so much about, you know, God comes to the poor in the form of food. Do not preach your Vedas and Upanishads and Gitas to the poor. Give them food, because God comes to the poor in the form of food. So yeah, I found that quite interesting here. All beings follow their own nature. Therefore, even persons of learning act according to their nature. What can suppression accomplish? Passion and hatred rest in each of us, in each of the senses, along with the sense objects. One must not come under their control, for they are like enemies. Perform your own dharma. It's better to perform your own dharma imperfectly than to perform somebody else's dharma perfectly. Destruction in the performance of one's own duty is preferable. To follow another's path invites danger. And Krishna is really saying that, Arjuna, you're a warrior. You know why you're here. This is your purpose, to act in this way. You've been given these strengths for this very reason, to work for Dharma. Now, you shouldn't try to escape that path. You should follow that path. And I kind of think here that we all have these abilities that we've been blessed with. Everybody's different. Everybody's got different abilities and talents. And, some people, like if we look at the Pandavas, Yudhishthira was very wonderful in morality and dharma, and executing an understanding of compassion, and teaching others about that path. Bhima had strength. He was the strong man. Now, if Bhima, being that strong man who was great in battle, took Yudhishthira's work on, then he wouldn't have been able to do it effectively. And if Yudhishthira took on the work of Bhima, he wouldn't have been able to do that effectively. So each of us is blessed with talents and strengths and innate abilities which are God blessed. They're divine qualities that we have, that we all possess. And I think we see it when we're working with somebody who's not doing their dharma, and you see them, they're not lit up by the work that they're doing. But then when you see someone flow because they're doing something that's so in line with their dharma and their truth, their inner truth, that they glow, that they thrive, that they're able to do more, that they succeed, that they, even if they're not succeeding financially by any metric, but you just see them glow. I think Krishna's talking about this. Do that which makes you glow. Do that which makes the world a better place, and that is connected and that feels right. If it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. It should feel right. Desire is the enemy of the world. Arjuna now speaks after we've had this wonderful teachings from Krishna for many verses. Oh Krishna, by what force are men drawn to perform evil deeds against their own will? Why do we perform evil things? Like, why does evil exist? Why are we doing evil acts? And you can get into deep philosophical arguments on this topic here. And why do we do evil? And Krishna gives a really interesting answer. Krishna says it is desire and it is anger that born of this quality of rajas. Know this to be the all-devouring sinful enemy of the world. So desire and anger are the ones that create evil. We have to be careful with the word even evil. You know, like um, at one level, at the soul level, that does not even exist. It's all just love. It's all just God. Sat Chitananda is the quality of the soul. So Sat is goodness and bliss, and Chitta is awareness and knowledge, and Ananda is bliss, happiness. Sat Chit Ananda, total bliss. So this 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 suffering and this evil, the negative qualities and acts are only part of the material nature, only part of the world, and they are formed from desire and anger. So if we can conquer desire and anger, then we are there. You've made it. As fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as an embryo is covered by the membrane, so our living being, our Atman, idam, this, so this is covered by desire. The Upanishads say, polish the mirror of your heart. So this dust, the dust of the world is covering that awareness. And all of this practice is to polish that mirror. Our satsang together today, our coming together to explore the Bhagavad Gita, chanting the name together, reciting the Hanuman Chalisa, performing prayer and puja, it's all polishing the mirror of our hearts. In fact, Ram Dass wrote a beautiful book by that same title, Polishing the Mirror. And it comes from the Upanishads. And here Krishna uh, is verbatim quoting from the Upanishadic analogies. So, like fire is covered by smoke, or the mirror, which is covered by dust. Mirror is already clean. Just the dust of the world is covering it. So, living beings are covered by desires. So, if we can transcend those desires, O son of Kunti, even the knowledge of a learned person is covered with this eternal enemy in the form of desire, which burns like an insatiable fire. The senses, the mind, and the intellect are said to be the resting place of this desire, which deludes and obscures knowledge of this embodied one. Again, desire. We're going deep into what these desires are. These senses and the mind and the intellect are said to be the resting place of desire, not the soul. Notice that it's not, desire is not of the Atman, which deludes and obscures the knowledge of this embodied one. Once Maharaji was asked, what is the Bhagavad Gita about? Very interesting, Krishna. What does Krishna teach in the Gita? That was the question. And and people gave the usual answers. Krishna taught bhakti. Maharaji says no. Krishna taught Nishkam Karma Yoga. This is what we're talking about here. Selfless yoga, Nishkam Karma Yoga. Maharaji said no. And then people were confused. It's like these are the main themes of the Gita. What was it? And Maharaji said, only Krishna can perform Nishkam Karma Yoga. Very interesting. It's quite Advaita. The view is non-dualistic view that only when you are one with Krishna can you perform true Nishkam Karma. And Krishna's making that point here. Even people, intelligent people, people apparently intelligent who can quote the Vedas and the texts and can meditate and, can recite the Gita, they even are clouded by senses and by desire. So even the wise need to work on this. We're all in the world. We're all um, gradually walking each other home, as Ram Dass said, and we're all on a journey. So there's not that, oh, I'm the perfect one and I'm the uh, liberated one. I'm just a human being on this journey, working on myself with friends, with family, with loved ones, trying to tread gently on the earth, not trying to harm others, but to try and help others. The senses, they say, are exalted. Higher than the senses is the mind. Higher than the mind is the intellect. And beyond the mind, however, where most stop, is the soul, is the Atman. Really interesting. The senses. And then above the senses is the mind. And then above the mind is the intellect. And beyond the intellect, the Atman. If I was to think about this a little bit, we have these senses that chase us around in the world and take us in different directions. But then we have this reptilian mind, which is fight or flight, and it responds to the senses. So if it really is quite basic in its decision making. But then we have a more developed intellectual ability and a brain with this great ability to reason and extend compassion to other living beings and to widen our sense of understanding with our own intellect and knowledge that we are all one human family, that we all exist here, that, this whole earth doesn't matter whether it's Canada or America, it's still planet Earth. And we are all one. And so that intellect has it, but beyond the intellect still is the Atman. And most people will stop at the intellectual level. Ram Dass said, I don't want your role, I want your soul. I want to know your soul. I want to know your Atman. And that heart to heart level, I believe, is the deepest form of social service when we can be heart, 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 heart. Ram, 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 Ram. We see all of that. O mighty armed Arjuna, knowing the soul to be higher than the intellect, you must control the mind through the use of your intelligence. Slay the enemy in the form of insurmountable desire. Slay the enemy in the form of insurmountable desire. This is the expression here, controlling the mind through the use of intelligence, is literally supporting the Atman by the Atman. So you can kind of say that if the senses are completely in control, then we are completely lost. The horses are just running wild. But the mind needs to control the senses. The intellect needs to control the mind. And the intellect should be led by the Atman. This is how we grab hold of the chariot. Most of us are at senses level, at least me. I'm mostly at senses level, running everywhere, chasing food wherever I see it, and sometimes come back. Oh, I remember, I have to recite Ram. Come back to the Atman, and come back there. So I think it's really quite a beautiful analogy here. Oh wow, wow, we've completed chapter 3. Congratulations, everybody. I was hoping to go slower today because there's some very dense and deep teachings in that. Um, Knowing the soul to be higher than the intellect, you must control the mind through the use of intelligence and slay this enemy in the form of insurmountable desire. Notice some of the words here: desire, ego, curbing the direction of the senses, pulling us away. The senses, they say that we are the exalted ones. Is we're talking about the senses almost as like living beings that live within us that want to take us in different directions. They're like those horses. And I feel that today, the real teaching is come back to the soul, come back to the Atman. And that's where God exists within our own hearts, within all of us. And that is the completion of chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita. Um, Chapter 4, which we'll explore next week, will be knowledge and renunciation, and has one of the verses which I'll share with everybody to try to recite over food is very beautiful. In fact, I'll just recite it quickly here now, and it is, let me see, I think it's 424. Yeah, I spoke about it last week. Brahma Panam, Brahma Havir, Brahmagno, Brahmanohutam, Brahmevate Nagantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. beautiful verse that can be recited before meals. Ram Dass wrote about it in Be Here Now. I found this verse written in Be Here Now as a food prayer that Ram Dass spoke about. Very beautiful. And it's just quickly, the act of eating is Brahman. The offering of placing it into the fire is Brahman. The digestive force is Brahman. The one who is absorbed in the action is Brahman. Offering it to Brahman, it's all Brahman. Maharaji said Sabek. So actually taking that act of eating, we'll explore it again in more detail with different examples of how we apply this teaching in our life, but how everything can be an act of Brahman. So we'll pause there.